It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Myrtle Beach Pelicans play-by-play broadcaster and media relation, Sam Weiderhaft. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Brandon. How are you? Thanks for having me on.
I'm doing good. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to work in professional sports?
Yeah, it was from a really young age. I grew up in Southern California, and I used to go to a ton of Angels baseball games. So I always knew from going to those games that I just really wanted to have a job, at least in baseball and professional sports. And I just remember walking out, out of the tunnel and just seeing the field, and I just knew that this was something I wanted to do with my life. So it was a really young age that kind of hit, and I've had some great opportunities that have kind of led me there so far.
How did you know that you wanted to go more of the broadcasting route?
So that started in high school, and I actually got really lucky. So I moved from Southern California when I was a freshman in high school, and I moved to Carmel, Indiana. And our high school actually had a radio station that allowed students to be able to broadcast games. So I figured I like sports. I didn't really quite know that I had a voice yet, but I just wanted to get involved in any way I could and broadcast the sports. So I started my junior year. I broadcasted a lot of our junior varsity sports at Carmel. And then my senior year, I kind of moved up to varsity and found out that I might have a talent for this. So it was really in high school that I found out that I really wanted to do play-by-play. I fell in love with it, and I've been doing it for 6 or 7 years now. And I love every single game I get to do.
Can you talk about, of course, the moment you were the PA for the Summer Olympics?
Yeah, that was a great opportunity I was able to get through one of my friends in high school. And I think it was 4 years I did the PA for the Special Olympics Summer Games. Now, they were in Terre Haute, Indiana, on the campus of Indiana State. And I just had a great time doing that, being able to work with all the athletes and just be the PA announcer and get to use my voice for something good was a great experience. And yeah, like I said, just being able to work with the athletes, and Special Olympics Indiana is such a good organization. That actually led me to do some work with them a little bit farther down the line in my college career. But yeah, being able to do that and be the PA announcer for a couple of days during the summer games for 4 years straight was a great opportunity. And I look back on it with great memories.
What was it like going from being a PA to, of course, being a sideline reporter for a conference?
Yeah, so I started sideline reporting with the Big East Digital Network. I think when I was a junior in college, I might have been a senior, but that was a unique opportunity because I really had to work my way up from there. I started out, so the Big East Digital Network covers soccer, baseball, softball, a lot of women's basketball for the Big East. And I really just started out as a camera guy there. And my freshman and sophomore years, I was working camera, I was folding up cable, kind of all just the side jobs in hopes that I would get an opportunity to be able to get on air. And that was able to come to fruition in my junior year. And I got some sideline opportunities and got to work with some really cool people and just get some great on-camera experience, which I hadn't really had before. I was more kind of on the radio side. So being able to do that, at the time it was on the Fox Sports Go app. So it was a pretty big platform to do something to do that on. But yeah, no, I did soccer, women's basketball sideline, and that was just a great opportunity to be able to get reps.
What was it like getting the opportunity to work on the college level as a PA announcer?
Yeah, I love PA announcing. Just doing that in general. I love to be able to use my voice and introduce starting lineups, or, introduce the final score. I mean, it's just stuff like that. I just love doing it. So at Butler, I was able to do that for a couple of things. Women's lacrosse was kind of my main sport that I did that for, but I did it for soccer a couple of times, volleyball as well. Yeah, and just being able to use my voice. Starting lineups are always my favorite part. I'm sure every PA announcer will say that, but just being able to do that and kind of get the crowd hyped up for the game was something that I just love doing. And at the college level at Butler, it was a really cool opportunity for me.
Can you talk about, of course, going from Butler being a PA announcer to going all the way to Coastal Carolina as a sports information assistant?
Yeah, that was again, another unique opportunity. And I just got really lucky. So what happened there was, I graduated from Butler in 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic. And I'm sure, as you know, there were not a lot of sports jobs that were out there. So I actually went to go serve at a Tex-Mex restaurant for 2 months and kind of get some money during that time. But I got lucky. My aunt and uncle both work at Coastal Carolina. My uncle is actually in the athletic department. He's the NCAA faculty representative. And kind of in June, they said, hey, if you want to pack your bags and move to Myrtle Beach, I'm sure that the athletic department can find a spot for you. So in August, I ended up doing that. And I just it wasn't really a lot of broadcasting at first because they didn't have a lot of openings. But, it was helping around the office. It was helping around the fields. I had to do proofreading for a lot of game notes, especially during football season. But it just gave me a lot of good experience kind of on the sports information side and how that side works as opposed to broadcasting. But a little bit farther down the line, that did lead to some broadcasting opportunities. But it was just a great opportunity to just get involved in a year, 2020, where there just wasn't a lot of things open. So I'm really grateful that I was able to have that door open.
Of course, with working with Coastal Carolina, what was it like, coordinating interviews with members of media, with your coaches and athletes like that?
Yeah, so I kind of helped out our sports information director, the head guy, Kevin Davis, with that kind of stuff. It gave me a lot of, which I'm sure we'll talk about later, but it gave me a lot of experience with that now that I'm dealing with all that stuff on the Pelicans side, just with how to deal with local media. I kind of watched how he would do it. The football season was crazy because we were so good, and we got up to number 9 in the polls, and we just had a ton of media that wanted, that were requesting access for our players and coaches. So I got to kind of take a back seat and see how all that operated, which was super cool. And I was more kind of helping out on the just proofreading game notes and stuff like that. But I did get to see how Kevin would deal with the media and stuff like that. So just great experience all the way around.
What was the opportunity like when you got to work with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans and just go like a few minutes away from Coastal Carolina?
It was lucky. It was really lucky. I always used to say, like, we always had guest speakers when I was in college, and they would come in and say, you got to have a lot of luck. And I didn't really understand what that meant until I got this job, because what happened was, I was kind of reaching out to the Pelicans in October and November and trying to send my stuff out because I just thought that would be a perfect opportunity just to be able to work at Coastal and then go right to the Pelicans. I'm already here. I just thought that'd be perfect. And at the time, I was going for their number 2 broadcaster spot. So, every typical minor league teams, at least in the past, before the pandemic, would have 2 broadcasters. And the number 2 would kind of be like the intern. So that's what I was going for originally. And I reached out and I got a couple of responses from the Pelicans, and they kind of knew who I was. And what happened was I was the broadcaster for Coastal women's basketball in the winter. And we had a lot of COVID pauses. So unfortunately, we had a lot of COVID tests, positive tests, which meant that the games would have to be canceled. So we had something like 15 or 16 games canceled. So one of those weekends, our games was canceled. The Pelicans were hosting a little high school football thing here at Pelicans Ballpark. And one of the Coastal guys let me know, hey, they're doing this. They need a broadcaster. Do you want to do it? And I thought, this is my way in right here. So I took it. And I did this little high school football thing here at the ballpark. I got to meet a lot of the front office. And at the end of it, our associate general manager comes in. Her name's Kristen Call. And she says, hey, you were doing a great job. Thanks for doing this. And I said, thank you. Are you guys hiring? And she said, well, we don't know yet, but definitely send me your stuff, send me your resume, and send all that stuff over, and we'll take a look. So the next day I did. I sent all my stuff over, and that kind of started the conversation going. And that was in January. Fast forward to March, and I was hired as the number 1 because the old number 1 didn't come back. So I was hired not only as the number 1, but the only broadcaster, because it's a one-man job this year. So again, a lot of things happened at the right time. A lot of pieces fell in place, and I'm incredibly lucky to be doing what I do every day.
What was that feeling like whenever you got to call your first game as a Myrtle Beach Pelican, knowing how hard you worked to get to Myrtle Beach Pelicans?
It was surreal. That first day, I remember it very well, and it was hectic. I mean, it was, our home opener, and um, my media relations job kind of took over a lot of that day, and I was making credentials and I was doing all this stuff leading up to that first game. But when I actually got on the air, I just couldn't believe that I was doing it. Especially after last year, I was about to be hired by a minor league team in Tennessee, coming out of college, and of course that didn't happen. So yeah, I just remember thinking how grateful I was that first game, and we ended up winning we had a big 8th inning comeback, and it was a really exciting game, and it was just something I'll remember for the rest of my life. And of course, I want to keep moving up, but that's definitely one game that I will always remember, and I'm just really grateful to have that opportunity.
Can you talk about, of course, how your media relations works?
Yeah, so in minor league baseball, your broadcaster is not just the broadcaster. I mean, he's got a lot of other responsibilities dealing with media relations. So basically what I do on the media relations side is every day I put together a big packet of game notes, which is basically just, the statistics from the season. And it's just notes for the opposing broadcaster and other media who want to see what's going on. So every day I keep up with that. If you want a credential, I'll make the credential for you. You got to send it through me. So if media wants to come and cover the game or shoot the game, they'll send a media credential request form. That'll come through me. I'll approve it and I'll make the credential. I'm also in charge of a lot of our social media during games. So I'm creating graphics, doing lineup graphics and stuff like that, and also providing in-game tweets for updates on Twitter and stuff like that. There's a lot to it. I know that I'm forgetting a lot, but it's a pretty extensive job. I'm also writing stories, and that kind of goes hand in hand with broadcasting. But I write stories about our players. I do a once a week when we're on the road, I do an interview series. So it's kind of like a podcast where I just have a player on and we just do a 20-minute conversation. But yeah, it's a lot of responsibilities. It's not just the broadcast. I'd say media relations is probably 60%. Broadcasting is probably 40%. But it all goes hand in hand. And I love doing all of it.
What is it like to, of course, cover the Myrtle Beach Pelicans on away games versus home games?
It's really different this year. So typically the broadcaster would go on the road, and that's not happening this year. At the beginning of the year, it was a COVID protocol, and we're just not having our broadcaster travel this year. So I'm hoping that lets up next year. But home games are a lot more fun because there's a lot more you're doing. I mean, I'm working from 9 a.m. until midnight, and I don't really have a lot of stops in between them. Home games, I'm getting the lineups together, obviously game notes, getting rosters, you're keeping up with roster updates and our transactions, which I do on the road as well, but at home it's just a little more magnified. And then obviously everything for the broadcast, interviews, and then the game ends. I got recap, post-game graphics, all this stuff that it just makes for a hectic day, but I love every single part of it. On road games, I'm still doing game notes. I'm still keeping up with our roster transactions. But for the game, I am just doing live tweets on Twitter. So I know that some broadcasters are doing a broadcast remotely. I decided not to this year because I thought I put my energy more kind of on the social media side. So I've just been doing live tweets during the games, and I still write the recap as well. So it's a little different. Home games are a lot more fun. That's for sure. And we have 60 of them. So I've gotten to do that quite a bit. But there's definitely a difference between home and away games this year.
Can you talk about, of course, on the media relations side when it comes to interviews with players and particularly like GMs? What is that process like for members of media to get interviews like with your GM or players or coaches?
Sure. Yeah. So typically I'll either get an email, or some of the reporters around here, I just have their number. So they'll either text me or email me and say, hey, for example, our top prospect is Ed Howard. He's a top 10 prospect in the Cubs system. We've gotten a lot of interview requests for him. So they'll either text me or interview or email me and say, hey, I'm thinking about getting an Ed Howard interview at, tomorrow. What time would be best for him? So I'll text Ed and say, hey, what time would be best for you for an interview? And he'll give me a time, and I'll, go back to the reporter, and we'll kind of set up a time. And usually I've been doing them through Zoom because it's just super easy. All I do is, they got a computer, the reporter has a computer, and they just do the interview. We've done a couple of on-field interviews with our reporters, which are always fun to do. I just get the player after batting practice and they just do a quick interview with the reporter. But yeah, typically it's just right through my email or somebody texts me and I kind of help set it up with the player. And that's just that's a cool part of the job, to be able to be close with these Cubs prospects and kind of direct them where to go. It's really their first taste of being in the public eye. A lot of these guys are playing full season baseball for the first time in their careers and they haven't really been exposed to the media. So this is kind of their first taste of it. And for me, it's just kind of cool to be able to operate that whole thing.
Of course, now with COVID and with Zoom being so popular as it is, how have y'all used Zoom to your benefit of having more interviews where back before Zoom, you might have only had one interview with one player and that was it?
Yeah, I've used a lot of it. Zoom has been really crucial this year with my interview coordinating for sure. I do a lot of interviews on Zoom, especially, when they're on the road, I don't really have a choice. So for my Pelicans road trip interview series, that whole thing is done through Zoom. So that's been great. For pregame interviews, I used to do Zoom in the very beginning of the season, but then I got allowed on the field and I've just been doing that ever since. I think it's probably since early June I've been doing that. But yeah, it's really convenient for reporters because they set up the link and all they have to do is send it to the player, and every player has Zoom on their phone. So that's just really easy. So it's been great. I think about just on Monday, I was on the Marquee Sports Network talking about our Pelicans team during the Cubs pregame show, and that was through Zoom. And, maybe if Zoom, before Zoom, pre-pandemic, I don't know if that would have happened. So it's been really, that's been one good thing to come out of the pandemic, that's for sure. But I've used Zoom a ton this year, and it's been really helpful.
Of course, going to your PA announcing and your play-by-play, what are some of your famous sayings that you use for the Pelicans?
Got a few. I'm not a huge catchphrase guy. I was once told at a broadcasting clinic that don't come up with your own home run call because all the good ones have already been taken. So I don't really have a home run call. We have a guy named Pablo Oliendo. He's one of our catchers. He's been probably our best hitter this year all the way around. So he's hit 5 home runs, and every single time he hits a home run, I say, "Hello, Pablo." And that's just kind of my thing that I love doing with that. There's been a couple of games where, in the beginning of the year, I started saying this game flies to the Pelicans. I said that a little bit. I've kind of gotten away from that. I kind of want to go back. I don't know. It's just whatever I feel in the moment. Home runs, I kind of get into a rut a little bit where I've caught myself saying either two things. Either it is gone or that ball is out of here. I think those are the two that I've really used a lot. I don't know if they're catchphrases, but those are just kind of the two home run sayings that I've used a lot. So I've got a few of them. I try and mix it up every once in a while, but I think the "Hello Pablo" one is definitely the one that I've used the most. And it's the one I have the most fun using because I love watching him hit home runs. So it works out.
That's so wonderful. What is something that you learned now that you didn't know before being a PA announcer and media relations?
Just I always knew that it was going to take a lot of sacrifice and a lot of hours, but actually doing it, that was just one thing I was prepared for a little bit, but actually being in the middle of the season, it's just something that you have to love it, and you hear that all the time. Like, you have to love it. It's long hours, the pay isn't great. But I do. I've learned really that I love it. And these home games, man, they just fly by, and they say time flies when you're having fun. And, I've had the time of my life this summer doing these games. And so, I've realized how much time and dedication it takes to be a part of a minor league baseball team. And, it's just been a fantastic summer. I love every minute of it.
What advice would you give somebody looking to become a PA announcer on the minor league baseball level?
PA broadcasting, or just broadcasting in general, I think, just don't say no to any opportunity. That's kind of one thing that I went all throughout college. I didn't say no at all. If I was presented an opportunity, I was going to do it. And that did take a lot of sacrifice, but it's just, you got to get your foot in the door somewhere. And you don't know what one opportunity is going to lead to. This little high school football gig that I did at Pelicans Ballpark led me to be the broadcaster for the Pelicans. So it's it's the little things. You don't know what's going to happen. And I would just say, take advantage of every single opportunity you can get, because you don't know what it's going to end up leading to.
What advice would you give somebody looking to work in media relations on a sports team?
I'd probably say the same thing. And another thing I would add to that is, you got to be good at a lot of different things. So really vary up, your tasks. I mean, you got to be good at Photoshop. You got to be good at InDesign. You have to be good with coordinating interviews, all this stuff. So on the media relations side of things, you really have to be a Swiss Army knife, because it's not just one thing. You got to learn a lot of different tools. So that's what I would say, for sports information directors, handling media relations in general. Learn as much as you can about everything, because there's not just one thing that you have to be good at. There's a lot of them.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans at?
Yeah. So on Twitter, I'm at Sam_Weiderhaft. You can find me on Twitter there. I have a lot of good tweets. Most of them are about Pelicans baseball, but sometimes I just tweet about my personal life because it's fun. I don't know. I feel like I'm a fun guy. Instagram, I'm at Weiderhaft. Facebook, Samuel Weiderhaft, all that stuff. Twitter, let me check and make sure that I get it right, because our Pelicans differs a little bit. So Twitter is at Pelican Baseball. Instagram is at Pelicans Baseball with an S. And Facebook is just Myrtle Beach Pelicans. So if you see a tweet during a game, it's typically me. There's another guy that also runs the social media, Hunter Horenstein. He's fantastic. He does a lot of our social stuff, not during the game. But you can find me on there, and you can also find the Pelicans on social media as well. And TikTok is at MB Pelicans. So Sarah, who you talk to, does a lot of our TikToks, and she's been killing it all year. So you can find the Pelicans on TikTok as well.
Thank you again, Sam, for your interview, and best of luck in your future with the Myrtle Beach Pelicans as the play-by-play broadcaster and media relations.
Hey, thanks a lot, Brandon. Thanks for bringing me on. I had a great time.
Thank you. You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Facebook at Brandon Sports Talk, Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Sam, for your interview, and best of luck in your future.
Thank you, man.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.